This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Joe Longo.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast Live. Are you in need of some relaxation, maybe a little mindfulness? I've got something for you today. It might be closer than you think. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing your good neighbor, Stacey Valdez, owner of Fairy Moon Yoga. Stacey, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited to connect with you. And we're all excited to learn about Fairy Moon Yoga. Can you tell us about your business and what it is and what you do and all of the goodies?
So, Fairy Moon Yoga is a yoga and wellness studio. We are located in Perryville. So, if you ever know where Riverwalk is, we are right up the street. We are the church that looks like a castle. And we have yoga, Reiki, and we offer wellness workshops, different types. We also offer book analysis. So next month we're doing Mirror Work by Louise Hay for 3 weeks. So if you're interested, jump into that. But we have a lot of different wellness things, and that's where we're at.
That's wonderful. So you're in a church.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that as well? Because it is, I'm for the listener, surprise. I was there, I've been there, and it's beautiful. But can you tell us about it and how did it all come to be?
So we weren't planning on opening a yoga studio. We were actually just looking for an investment property. We had property in Jim Thorpe for 30 years, and we're just looking around. And we've always looked. We lived in New Jersey, and we always looked at churches, and they were always like, almost $1 million. And my husband was up here looking, and he's like, I found a church, and it's like the price of a car. And so we went on Christmas Eve, looked at the church. We put an offer in on New Year's Eve, and we settled on February 14th of 2020.
Wow.
And at that point, we thought, maybe we'll live in it. Maybe we'll make it somewhere. We didn't know what we were going to do with it. And then all of a sudden, we were sitting in our condo, and my husband was at one side, I was the other, and we were both like, yoga studio. Because we had planned on moving up here in retirement. And I always wanted a community. I was practicing yoga for 20 years. And I was like, you know what? I want a community where I'm going to move, and I want to build the community that I want. One that's inclusive, that I know that is open to everybody. So that's kind of how we started, and it just flew. Then COVID happened, and my husband was able to be off for 9 months, and he worked 12 hours a day. And we opened in October of 2020.
Wow. When you got the church, was it, because now it's obviously a beautiful yoga studio, was it a church? Did it have the pews, or was all of that stuff already removed?
The sanctuary had the pews removed. Everything else was there, the stage and all of that. But they had kind of turned it into like a virtual church with like a coffee shop, which kind of didn't fly. And so they closed. And so when we got it, the church basically just needed to be painted. The platform needed to be just restained. So that wasn't too bad. And then we had to redo the whole rest of it, because it was like, green and yellow carpet with brown paneling and all the things, all the 1970s stuff.
Right. All the things you would expect in an old church. So since you've been here and doing this with your business, what are some of the misconceptions or myths about the yoga industry? And maybe even being in a church.
Well, for one, people look at us a little funny. We've gotten some interesting comments online about being in a church. And, that's everybody's, I look at it this way. If people would have supported their church, we wouldn't have been in the church. But, that's up to everybody. Churches are struggling. And also, would you rather have a blighted building in the middle of your community?
Right.
But then some of the other myths are, when I say, oh, come to yoga, and they say, well, I need to get flexible before I come to yoga. Okay. Well, one of the ways to get flexible is to come to yoga.
Yeah, I love that one.
I hear that all the time. I can't come because I'm not flexible.
So we all know that marketing obviously is the heart of every business. What are you doing to get people in there and on the mat?
One of my most successful things right now from word of mouth is also Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
I did some things with some local community things, but it never really panned out.
Uh-huh.
We did wine on the river and people looked at us like we were the devil. Like when people are drinking, they don't want to think about yoga. It's like, I don't want to think about health and wellness right now because
Mm-hmm.
drink
Mm-hmm.
and eat chocolate. So that kind of didn't work. So yeah, Facebook, word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah. How about your target like clientele? What do you find? Because I think this was another misconception of yoga as well. Are you finding a wide variety of people coming?
Yeah, the one thing that surprised me was our actual average age of yoga right now is 50 and above.
Wow. How about
And when we
that?
started, we had more seniors
Hear
than
that, everybody
and
out there?
it shocked me because you know what? We had people that went skiing every day in their
Mm-hmm.
70s. And I'm like, that's who I want to be. I want to be the person who's skiing every day, who's playing pickleball 3 times a week, who's playing tennis at 82.
Right.
And I always tell the people that come to my studio, yoga is not about being in the pretty pose. It's not looking like an Instagram person. It's so we are not bent over the shopping cart at the Walmart.
Uh-huh. So
Like,
true. So true.
it's not about that.
Hmm. Yeah, we definitely want to be able to get up off the floor and
Yes.
stand up straight. That's been one of my goals forever, right? Just sit on the floor because if I'm sitting on the floor, I'm going to have to get up off the floor. But if I stop sitting on the floor, eventually I'm not going to be able to get up from the floor.
Yes.
Silly little practice. Have you ever thought about having a podcast and talking about yoga and all of this good stuff?
I did. I do think about it.
Mhm.
One of my things is time. I work a full-time job in
Right.
addition to running the business. So as the chief
Mhm.
cook, bottle washer, cleaner, everything. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I have thought about doing a podcast and actually thinking about talking about yoga and how it has helped people in their life.
Mhm.
How has made differences in their life. What made people come to yoga
Right, yeah,
and
they're the good
the different
stories.
wellness modalities.
Mhm. I love that, I love that. So outside of your job and the studio, what are you doing for fun?
Fun. Oh, okay. Uh, we are renovating an 1859 house in Upper Jim Thorpe.
Mhm.
So we've been working on that. Um, and I'm going to start paddleboarding. So we have a paddleboarding group at the studio, and I'm buying my first paddleboard, and I'm going to be paddleboarding this summer.
Oh, that is awesome. I love paddleboarding. Was definitely scared at first, but once you get it, it's like, oh, this is
Mhm.
so. I mean, haven't done yoga on my paddleboard. I've just kind of floated around, and that is good enough. But it really is quite enjoyable.
I went once with one of our
Hmm.
teachers, Valerie, and it was so peaceful. I only got up to my knees, but that was
Hmm.
fine. I
Yeah,
just
baby steps.
didn't want to get crazy.
Hmm. Hmm. So if you can tell our listeners one thing that they should remember about Fairy Moon Yoga, what would that be?
We're an open community. We meet you where you are at. It's not
Mm.
about what your neighbor looks like while you're doing yoga. Everybody's body is different. Whether your knees are up or your knees are down, or you can do the pose. I always say in my classes, if you go into child's pose for the whole class, you are still doing yoga.
Yes,
We're
so
open
true.
when it's not about being Instagram, and I don't like performance yoga.
Uh-huh.
I think it does
Mhm.
a disservice to
Right. Yeah, it kinda scares people
scares people
away.
away.
Right. I know it scared me away in the past. It was like, "I can't do that stuff."
Right.
And then I realized, "Oh, right, maybe let's start with just touching my toes." Let's keep it simple, and everything changed then. So, how can our listeners learn more about Fairy Moon?
Well, they can come to fairymoonyoga.com or they can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fairy Moon Yoga. And that's basically where we kind of hang out. I don't try to do
Wonderful.
all the platforms.
Yeah, there are so many platforms out there. And I often recommend people like find what works for you and
Mhm.
stay there.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be everywhere. Well, Stacey, thank you so much for being here for our conversation, for sharing about Fairy Moon. From everyone at the Good Neighbor podcast, we wish you and your business the best moving forward.
Thank you. It was nice to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpnepa.com. That's gnpnepa.com. Or call 570-908-4334.